now that I have access to, excuse me, a webcam on my laptop, odds are I'm going to be reviewing movies from both modern day and all the way back to the 80s. I didn't think I would have this option, ever, for the longest time. But I'm glad I have it now. Better late than never. On that note, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen in my life, by Stephen King, or based on a Stephen King book for that matter, per se, believe it or not, to this day, is still, and I say still because it hasn't lost its potential with me. It doesn't scare me as much as it did when I first saw it, but I gotta be honest with you, the way the director builds the tension up to the earth-shattering climax, I'm like, whew, to say the least, because by the time the end credits roll, and it's like, at least with me, now I'm not saying everyone's like this, but at least with me, I'm like, strangely enough, the movie is called Cujo. I saw this one for the first time when I was in my early teens. And to be honest with you, it scared the living tar out of me. I had never seen a movie that made a dog this vicious and this violent until I saw this movie. But I was only 11 or 12, so, like I said, I was much more impressionable. One thing I liked about this movie was the way my dad explained to me in ways that I could understand what happens when when a domestic animal becomes rabid. He explained it in such a way that I just cannot overlook that. That was one of the few times when I was a kid when my dad and I really, really connected. And I'm very grateful for that. Even though ultimately he did have to turn it off when I lost control. When I emotionally lost control. I don't know. Anyway, since I've watched it so many times since then, I never got on VHS, but I've seen the first edition on DVD. I've had the newer edition on DVD, the clear cut with the Cujo emblem on it, and now I've seen it on Blu-ray. And I gotta be honest, between the Blu-ray and the DVD, there's not that much difference as far as quality. But one thing that I've noticed is, if nothing else, Blu-ray is warranted with a lot of movies if you like the way the elaborateness of certain setups of certain menus. That's all I can tell you as far as Blu-ray goes. Sometimes the menu, the way the menus are set up, that actually makes them worthwhile, and sometimes it doesn't. And so it doesn't matter either way. This Cujo in particular, for some reason, even today, it still sends a chill up my spine. And it's not just because of the dog, it's because of how the tension just builds and builds and builds. And by the time it's over, you're just sitting there and you're like, you're not exactly hoping that although I have heard that the book by Stephen King, it's one of the few that he wishes he could rewrite, because he didn't like the ending either of the book. He likes the movie ending better than the book. And for those that have not read the book, or even seen the movie, well, you can understand where I'm coming from, and possibly from where Stephen King's coming from. It does not make, if you take movies like this without taking them too seriously, you will probably get a lot more out of them this way. Don't take them as a personal attack, and certainly, by all means, do not take them as trying to make animals or anything like that look bad. Because if you do that, you're really going to miss the point. Cujo is about a Saint Bernard dog. This is true. But he doesn't turn into a vicious killer by choice. Remember that. He gets bitten by a bat with rabies. That's how the story opens. Another thing that I've always liked about Cujo is not only the way that the tension just builds and builds and builds, but I also like the way the music works. During the 80s and the 90s, they had so much better opening sequences with the credits, and they did that better. The mood of certain scenes worked better. They just don't have that now, with very few exceptions, of course. If you don't like Stephen King, I cannot recommend this one, let alone any other one. On the other hand, I do think that this one goes down in history for a reason, but I don't think Stephen King was trying to make dogs look bad. I think he took a story that he heard about or even had an experience of his own, and he took it from there. One thing I liked about this one, though, was the parental unit with the little boy, playing Tad. And with Stephen King, you don't get that very often, regardless of how young the child is. You don't get a parental unit as loving and supportive with a Stephen King story. Not very much. I mean, how many movies have we seen where the parental unit loved their children, was not abusive by any stretch of the imagination? Not to say that these parents this parental unit did not have their issues, but none of them were with their 2-year-old son, and I liked that. I also like Dee Wallace because, if nothing else, I have seen her in E.T. She's got a lot of potential, and why she has not done more since the 80s, I'm not entirely sure, because I think she's got a heck of a lot of potential, to say the least. Louis Teague directed Cujo, but he's also done a few other movies that I've seen and liked. Although, like I said, to be honest, I have not been... There have been a couple of Stephen King movies where I have not been that crazy about them. But like I said, I can count those on 5 fingers, if not 6 to 7 hands. And that's saying a lot, considering I've liked almost 95% of the movies that I've seen by Stephen King. Both the originals and the remakes. But we'll get to those later. If you haven't already, check out the movie, but once again, try to watch it with an open mind, and you may even like the book, whichever order you decide to go in. Thank you, and goodbye for now.